We are amongst the top 3 startup destinations already. We have the largest youth population in our country. For India to achieve the next level of growth, our students, our youth has to enterprise. I think that is something that we agree on. Now, we have to understand whether our students are thinking about entrepreneurship, whether they are engaging in entrepreneurship, and this is what we are trying to answer in this report. The first data point that I will go to is that 14% of these students, these are students who are in the university, they are in second year, third year, fourth year. When we go to them and say, what would you be at the end of the graduation? They say, I want to become an entrepreneur. There are 14% students who say this. Then we ask them, what would happen 5 years after you have graduated? What would you be doing? Then they imagine, 31% of them imagine, I will be an entrepreneur. So the number goes up from 14% to 31%, right? At the same time, if we say how many of you would be in employment, then at graduation 70%, 69% say I will be in employment, government, private, etc., etc. But at the end of 5 years, that number drops to 52%. This is what is interesting. There is increase in entrepreneurial inclination amongst the students. They are seeing it as a career option, right? Now, why are our students suddenly, not suddenly, of course there are reasons for it, we know, but now I'm going to go across my panels and say, how do you explain this? How come our students are suddenly more interested? Are these numbers reliable? Are they blabbering too much? Is our survey wrong? Let me be critical, right? So to do that, I'll first go to Professor Sankalp Pratap from IIT Bombay's Desai School of Entrepreneurship, relatively new school on entrepreneurship. Professor Sankalp has also been with IIT Jodhpur before. He has wide experience in teaching entrepreneurship, in engaging with Incubation Center and seeing incubators come up in the campuses. So Professor Pratap, in your opinion and experience, how do you explain these numbers?
Yeah, the number seems reasonable to me based on the interaction that I have had on at least the IIT campuses. The number seems reasonable. And you asked about what could be the mechanisms through which these numbers have come about. And
yeah, right. What is it that is inspiring these students to now suddenly say entrepreneurship can be my career?
Right. So I would pick 3 bullet points and have a few sentences on each of them. One could be attributed to social learning theory itself. So youngsters are, despite our competitive exam mania, they are still getting some time to browse their mobile phones, even when they are preparing for the exams. And what they are finding there are certain youngsters getting felicitated, getting clapped on LinkedIn or Instagram, right? And that's a very powerful message for them. So, those kind of icons have always been there. Steve Jobs have always been there, so has been Bill Gates. But when it is closer home, it starts hitting that I can also do it. And by the same logic, if there is somebody on your campus who has done it, once you come in and you start hearing in hostels, oh, in hostel 4, Shibabrata Das of Attenborough, isi room mein rehta tha. That is when suddenly this uptick, because now those examples have got created, and every campus would benefit from promoting more and more of such, maybe even putting their posters at night when nobody is seeing. That's one. The other is the various government programs, like the Institution Innovation Council itself. You use the word entrepreneurship as a career. In the first quarter of their program, so they have this yearly, now we'll have ISC 7.0. So in the first quarter itself, the first bullet point in the PDF that they'll share with all ISCs is hold a session for students with the title Entrepreneurship as an Industry or as a Career. So the government is doing its bit on these things. They are setting up tinkering labs. They are funding that. And Smart India Hackathon, such a huge open innovation model, apparently the world's largest open innovation model. Around 2,800 colleges participated this year with 50 teams each. That's a huge number. So these kind of programs, the people are already imitating, trying to imitate those who have been successful. The first student team which started on campus and has now gone on to get an IPO, that's Idea Forge. These are big milestones in our landscape. And finally, I would say the entrepreneurship education infra, again, which has been set up, whether it be entrepreneurship as a subject in class 11th and 12th, the textbooks are already out in NCERT, right? Colleges are having separate entrepreneurship verticals or departments. Yeah. So I think I would say these three things are actually putting those numbers which you have there.
Great. Thank you, Professor Pratap. I think I resonate with you on the social learning theory. There are role models that are getting created because of the money that the government is spending, the programs that are coming out which are supporting students in innovation and entrepreneurship. And there are now thousands of Institute Innovation Council, and especially the NIRF ranking has an innovation category. A lot of entrepreneurship data goes there. So universities have an incentive now to promote entrepreneurship to be better at the NIRF ranking, right? But that's just IITs. That's just the tip of the iceberg. Let's talk about other institutions. I'll go to my other panelist, Professor Davinder Singh, who is with BMU in NCR area. And there is so this is an interesting incubation center. They have a community innovation center from Atal Innovation Mission. They also run Startup India Seed Fund. They also have the Genesis from MIT. In a corporate-backed environment, would you reason these numbers the same way, or is there some influence of the corporate leadership being there, corporate taste being there, people being there, which is shaping students' intention?
Thank you, Isba, for inviting me here. I'm honored and happy to represent the university and the incubator. Now, I just would like to kind of put few dates in perspective. India, this Institution Innovation Council initiative started in 2019. AICs came in 2017. And a lot more emphasis on startup ecosystem from the government came in the second term of the government, which is somewhere around 2019 onwards. Our university opened in 2014. Our incubator started in 2020. So good 6 years, there was no incubator, no IICs, nothing. Yet we had 12 startups, 10 of them being in revenue stage, without an incubator, without an official IIC or anything existing there. The reason we believe is that right from the beginning, there was this desire to promote entrepreneurship amongst the students. And this, of course, was largely because the corporate backing us, the Munjal family, has a strong rise because of entrepreneurial spirit that the group had. And all that we did was really put few courses as part of the program, encourage the students to think differently, pursue different options. And being a new university, we did not get initially the top performers from the school or their undergrad. What we got was people who were good performers, but not necessarily chasing after grades. They were ones who were trying to think differently, do different things, and were willing to take a bit of risk. I mean, coming to a campus which is not even ready, coming to a place which doesn't have a history of education, meant that people came with that spirit. And I think that was one of the reasons we had such a good output in a short period of time. So I would add on to it that incubators, ISCs, funding schemes have encouraged, because our number of students which have come afterwards into the incubation and startup is increased. But eventually it has to be the culture that we create, the opportunity we give, and the acceptability at the institute would be a big factor.
Great. Thank you. So that's a slightly different perspective, in a corporate-backed environment, and also there were no incubators, so why were these people enterprising, right? That's an interesting question to ask. Let me switch this discussion to now the third part on the slide, which is active entrepreneurs and nascent entrepreneurs. The earlier data is only about who wants to be what, but let's see right now how many students are actually enterprising, and the data says 38% students in total are working on an idea. 5% have a revenue generating business as a student currently, and 33% are at nascent stages, right? 33% nascent, only 5%, and 5% is lower compared to global standards. 33% is really high. So I'm going to go to my third panelist, Dinesh here, who runs the Stanford Seed Spark program, which was earlier focused on students, and now not. Now they work with incubators to take ventures which are post-student level, because they found something unique, something specific which did not work for them when they were working with the student startups. So what was it? And the data says the intention to action gap is huge. 33% are working, only 5% have a revenue generating idea. So what was your experience, and how can we bridge this gap?
Thank you, ISBA team, for inviting us and sharing knowledge through this conference. So a little bit of context. Seed Spark is an online program run by Stanford Seed for early traction stage startups. We help them move from stage 1 to 10, initial growth stage. So we piloted this program. We started this program in 2020. The admission model is a bit different. We do not directly admit entrepreneurs. We collaborate with incubators and accelerators, and our collaborators nominate the entrepreneurs to our program. There are many of our collaborators who are members of ISBA here. When we piloted in 2020, we started with 2 incubators and then 2 accelerators. So VIT TBI was our very initial incubator. Then we started having, in the initial cohort was 75 entrepreneurs. That's the first cohort in 2020 we piloted. Almost, I would say 40% of them were students who were in their final years of college, right? And when we noticed first 2 cohorts, pilot dropout rate, students as the biggest population had the highest dropout rate, right? The rest of the entrepreneurs who are currently building their startup, full-time working on their startup, were completing the program more seriously. That was one reason. And then when we were diving deep into why this is happening, is there something that the program is not matching? There was an interesting behavior we found. Students are treating the program also like an academic program. They are treating as part of our program, we have mentoring options where we pair each startup with a business leader who's a senior business leader who will come and mentor these startups. And also we provide them business templates to work on. Students started treating these templates as academic activities, and then they are not clear on what questions to ask to the mentor, so that the mentoring relationship was not very clear and they were not sure how to take best use of it. As opposed to an entrepreneur who's out of the academic institution, in the market, trying to do the product market fit or grow their startup, there is a stark difference. And then that behavior also helped us fine-tune our product market fit. And then we said, okay, students who are currently in academia, we'll not take them into the program. We'll take alumni into the program. So this was a learning during the early pilot stages, which was in 2020 and 21. Having said that, now later when we were in the 2023 stage, right now we are running our Spark 9th cohort. Between cohorts, where we were doing 5th, 6th cohorts, we identified a new pattern of a different stage of students. We were having PhD scholars who were at the end of their PhD life cycle, like 4 year or 5 years of their PhD work. When they joined our program through an incubator, typically deep tech and biotech, they were more committed than the entrepreneurs who are working in the market. It's more like they had the domain knowledge, and then they had spent a lot of years on their work, and they want to make a very good non-academic, or I'm using the word commercial with careful intonation, non-academic application-oriented use of their research work.
Sure.
And that's a pattern that we also seen. So when we think of students, it doesn't always have to be UG, PG. There's also PhD students.
Yeah. So you're saying that the orientation of there are sub-segments within the student population, and the orientation could be different. While senior students with more years of education in a PhD program, they're more serious about it. They see the validity of it. But the students in early ages, in undergraduation, they are probably treating this as an academic exercise, and that's why maybe swell number, 33% are working on an idea. It could be, there are thousands of IICs now, so it's possible that they're doing a project kind of thing, which they are reporting as a venture now, right? That could explain. But then if Stanford Spark would not engage with the students, then who would? And the answer is the Incubation Center in the campus. So there are several entities which are now focusing on accelerating the startups already owned by the incubator. But then what is the incubator's role in student startups journey? Okay, that is where I bring in the next statistic, which is that 26% of these student ventures, out of 13,800 students, 38% students say I'm working on an idea. Out of these 38%, 26% only are in their university incubator or in any other incubator, right? Only 1/4. Is this number good? Is this number bad? Are these too few? Are these too many? Let me go to Professor Pratap again and say, is incubator not reaching out to them? Are they not coming to incubator? Are the ideas not ready for the incubator, not baked enough? How do you see this number?
Right. On this number, I would agree that from what we have in mind, this number is not up there. So we should have greater percentage of teams wanting to go to the incubator. But is this a campus-specific incubator or any incubator at all?
This is any we also have breakdown of, is this your campus incubator or outside? We have the breakdown,
okay,
but
fine.
Majorly it is their incubator in the campus.
Right. So possibly the linkage that has not, and the value that can be added, that has not possibly got communicated appropriately. And but at IIT Bombay, what we are attempting it that through, because the School of Entrepreneurship is both education and pre-incubation, and then handing over to Sign. So that is the linkage that from tinkering lab to education to pre-incubation to incubation. So in our mind, it is clear that that is the channel which we will be trying to lubricate as much as we can through our processes. And I agree that students can start, because those numbers can be misleading, students can start looking at it as just another course. In fact, there is research to indicate the dark side of entrepreneurship education, which is found that actually there are some education programs which can reduce the entrepreneurial intensity on campus. And there is a reason, because you start showing a funnel which is very steep. You start saying, as the chief secretary was saying, 8% success rate, but you actually do not teach skills. You teach as you were teaching, let's say I am a student of strategic management. So you start teaching entrepreneurship as you would teach strategy. So then people would take it as an academic program and not as something to do. So that would explain why this research paper
and then we bore the hell out of the students in the classroom, and they say entrepreneurship is boring.
Yeah. So they would state that they are entrepreneurs, maybe to a consulting firm and a PE firm.
Yeah.
But actually in their mind they're not, because they have already disengaged from it because it has not been taught well.
So pedagogy is important. How we teach entrepreneurship has to be, I mean, there are 49% students who say they have taken at least one course, either elective or compulsory, or they're in a specialized program. So half of them are studying entrepreneurship. We better be careful how we teach them.
Yeah, of course.
Right? Let me go to the next question in the interest of time and go to Professor Davinder now, which is around university entrepreneurship climate. Are we doing what we are supposed to do? Are we building the culture of entrepreneurship in the right manner in our universities or no, right? Are we teaching them entrepreneurship correctly, or are we actually moving them away by telling them more about entrepreneurship early on, right? So in your institution, at your host institution, how have you tried to build the culture of entrepreneurship to bring the management to sort of support the initiatives in the incubation center, to encourage the students? What are the best practices that you think are working well?
Yeah, I think I'll just quickly catch on to the 26% is not surprising, because you have also got 70% who say, I will pick it up after some time. I'm not immediately going to join some corporate or some job, but after some time I'll come. And that's largely because and I look at, I'm talking now from a private university, a student pays a fair amount of money to go through any program. I mean, it could run upwards of 10 lakhs or even 15 lakhs. And if you're coming from a not a very endowed family, then you have this pressure to earn initially and then come to a stage where you can get into entrepreneurship or have your own venture. So they have an idea, they pursue it. They pursue it as part of their course projects. And I think that's one of the elements which helps. As an institute, if you provide a lot of experiential component to your pedagogy, and it could be across all courses. One of our startup who came up from two students who graduated from MBA, spent 20 lakhs each to go through the program. Right from the day one, they were very clear they want to run a venture, and all their class assignments, projects, etc., they were all centered around their venture. So they were very clear. So allowing students to really link their academic work with the venture that they want to set up is a very good way of encouraging this thing. And that really means that the faculty and the academic process has to acknowledge it. They need to give the due policy credits for what work you've done. Yeah. Even give, like in our institute, we give 10% break on the attendance. Yeah. Okay. And 1 year of deferred placement. So you can defer your placement by a year. Sure. So there are various policy matters plus the way you engage. I think that would help a lot.
Thank you. So I think that's telling us what is working. Let me ask the question the other way. How are we actually spoiling the entrepreneurial culture? I'll go to Professor Pratap and then I'll close with Dinesh. How is it that we are not building the culture right, or what are we doing wrong, in terms of encouraging students to take up entrepreneurship? And I'm particularly referring to the story of where do you position the incubator, the attitude of the host institution, and so on. Very brief and crisp answer, please.
Yeah. So the incubator, and this I'm drawing from my personal experience, particularly at Jodhpur. In our case, it was campus was building up. So the incubator somehow got located very far away from the hostels. And so we tried a lot number of things, but it was very clearly a losing battle. And that is when we understood that, you have to understand students as students. So they want a place where they can easily access and see what it is. Because they have so many assignments, so many things happening anyways, competitions, cultural fests and so on. So for entrepreneurship to be a dish that they savor, first the dish has to be close on the table. If it is too much in the corner, they might not see, they might not reach there. So the design of where these opportunities are, even physically, I think is very important. Yeah. And at the School of Entrepreneurship, in fact, we are setting up a sandbox of a building where you will have the maker space, the tinkering lab, the hackathon space, and the faculty lab and offices. Literally stone's throw from the student hostels. So that needs to be, these kind of things need to be as close and as inviting to the students.
So proximity, the access to the incubator has to be created. It's not just, they will not understand incubation by just the, billboard that we put it out, or the lectures or the awareness programs that we do. It has to be close. There has to be a pizza shop, a cafe. Yeah. There has to be internet. We have to allow them freely in and then see. I'll move to Dinesh for the last comment for this panel. Dinesh, what do we need to change in our university? Yeah.
I would say invest more on the manager or lead or CEO running the incubator. It makes all the difference of the quality of the incubator and the ecosystem. We have seen that personally over a period of 4 years when we started working with 4. Right now we are working with 53 incubators across India, and we have spoken to 80, 90 incubators, and we have funneled and filtered, right? The only thing that always stands out is the commitment of the manager or the lead running the incubator helps. Yes. Takes it forward.
Yeah, so let's stick to one. Let's see if we can do one. And then maybe next time we'll study the rest of the two. So thank you so much for your inputs. I think one thing that we need to take away from all of this discussion is that our students, our youth is the future of entrepreneurship. If we have to move further up the ladder in terms of leading global entrepreneurship ecosystems, we need to further our academic institutions. We have to build our incubation network within them, and we have to make sure the culture is right, the academic environment is right. And all of our contribution in this agenda is going to advance the cause of entrepreneurship, student entrepreneurship in India and globally. Thank you very much to the panelists, and Kannan, thank you for helping us do
Thank
this.
you for
To stay informed about the startup ecosystem, subscribe to My Startup TV.